Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. Of course, we have Dr. David Okoro joining us from Abuja this morning. He is a security expert, of course, also an expert with regards to international relations. We'll be looking at the security situation in Nigeria, what is happening in the Northwest. Recently, we heard of men of the Nigerian military abandoning their armored vehicle in the north. And just as a developing story in that, we also see that bandits have actually destroyed that particular armored vehicle. What does that mean financially for the sector, and what does this mean for security in the country? Good morning, Dr. Okoro. Good to have you rise and shine. All right. Okay, we'll be delving right into the conversation. We've tried to hold brief in the time that we couldn't have you, but on the backdrop, first of all, the president is asking that Bello Matawale and the chiefs of security, they should all head to Sokoto to try and quell the insecurity that is happening there. I know that you're vast in these security issues. Give us a backdrop of what is really going on in Sokoto State. We know that there have been abductions and killings. And then there was the report of indigents of Sokoto State coming together and marching into the forest as a means to fight for themselves. What's really the situation of things?
Well, thank you once more for having me. The issue that we face in the Northwest, it didn't start yesterday. It's a problem that had gradually increased over time. Basically, the insecurity you see in the North is a failure of governance. And the failure of governance put pressure on the security sector. And when the security sector is overwhelmed, it buckles. So simply, this is what you have seen, that government in the North is not delivering on education. They are not delivering, the governments in the North, the governors, they are not delivering on education. They are not delivering on health. They are not delivering on employment. They are not delivering on youth engagement. They are not delivering on most of those things that is actually a governance. So people look for alternative to survive. And so you have a situation today where there's what we call the bandit economy in the North. I hope you are hearing me.
We can hear you clearly.
You can hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, so you have a situation where you have what we call bandit economy in the North, where today you have a whole ecosystem. The place where you have some semblance of security, usually in this northern state, is the state capital. By the time you are leaving the state capital and you are getting to the rural areas, bandits are in most cases really in charge. So it is not a matter of today, and maybe I just quickly comment on that the president have asked that everybody go to the Northwest, to the North, to try and quell these things. Sokoto, Katsina, Zamfara, KB, Niger, Kaduna. Look, all these places have been immersed in a bandit activity for a very long time. So it's not going to be a 100-meter dash. You get in there, you clear the guys, because in the rural areas, the economy is bandit economy. The young people who ordinarily would have resisted joining the train of bandits have no other job, and so they have no option but to join the banditry. And bandits it's a flourishing business, because if bandits kidnap you, you pay 50 million, pay 100 million depending on your status in society, or they go to a certain village and they levy everybody to pay an amount, otherwise they will be thrown out of the villages or killed. So there's a lot of money in that bandit sector. So it has grown over time. So I spoke about the bandit economy, where you have the bandits themselves, you have armorers, you have informants, you have security people that work with them, you have community leaders supporting them, you have religious leaders supporting them, you have people who supply materials, supply women, supply all sorts of food, supply oil, petroleum products and all that. So you have a whole lot of people that are actually involved in this. But like I said, the primary reason for the failure for the situation we see is the failure of governance to provide what the people require. So it's a big problem. It's a big national problem, really.
So you're raising the question of failure of governance, putting pressure on security. Please, Dr. Okoro, let's take our minds back to the fact that in the history of democracy in Nigeria, we have always had most of our presidents and the leadsmen, even where security architecture is concerned, coming from the north. Why then have we seen the weight of pressure with insecurity coming from them? Why haven't the likes of Muhammadu Buhari,
being a former military head,
former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and all the other former leaders that have come out of there, why are they still clamoring for lack of government presence? Whose fault is it?
No, it's not a matter of fault. By the way, your system is echoing badly. Can your technical people fix it? But having said that, it has been shown that the fact that a leader comes from a certain part of the country does not guarantee development in that area. You remember that when Goodluck was president, the road to Utoike was not tarred. It was a horrible place to travel in. When Obasanjo was the president, the road to Ota till tomorrow have not been tarred. And if you go to Ota, it's a sorry sight. If you go to Niger State, where we have had how many presidents, Niger State is still one of the most backward states in Nigeria in terms of infrastructure. So the fact that the leader comes from a certain part of the country does not guarantee that that part of the country will be developed. In fact, Katsina, where Buhari comes from, is a hotbed of banditry. Several of the local governments are under bandit control even as we speak. So really, it does not speak to when people are in government, just the way they fail all over the country to develop the country. It's the same way. Unfortunately, they're not more so because they have had more of our leaders over the years, and they have not delivered at the national level. Even so, it's worse at the. If you go to the north, it's really. I travel around the north because of my work, and you can see poverty, you can see backwardness, you can see everything that will be what I call conditional precedents for this kind of crisis you are having to happen. And one would have been surprised if there is peace in the north, if there is security in the north, because of the complete or total failure of governance. You need to go to see what we are talking about. I'm not talking about governance that somebody tarred roads in the state capital. I'm not talking about governance in the sense that there is some street light in the state capital. I'm talking about in terms of human development. If it comes to human development, my people in the north, the leaders have not done too well. So it's not a matter of blame game. The poor people are the ones suffering. Somebody represents them in Abuja. He works for himself. Somebody is in the villa who is supposed to represent these people or represent the entire Nigeria. They work for themselves. So the consequence at the end of the day is that the people are left uncared for, and because they are left uncared for, they have no option. Do you know what it means for a young person not to go to school? He didn't go to school. He doesn't have a skill, and he grows up. He wakes up every day. There is no means to survive. There is no means to obtain food. There are no jobs, and so he has very little option. And then now you have the bandits. They seem to be the big boys around. It seems that those boys that are bandits come to the village. They have bikes, they have money, they have good phones and all that. Of course, every young person will want to be part of them, even though you might not want to be. So these are the crises that we face. Like I said, it's not a dash. It's not going to be, commanders go to the north and then clear everything. It won't happen like that because this is a deep-seated problem that must be attacked from different perspectives. One is governance. There must definitely be a change of heart by northern leaders to ensure that monies that are meant for development is spent for development. Then security can come in because there's no amount of jet bombers or rifles or force that can bring solution to the issues of criminality that we have in the north if governance is not up and doing. That's the truth.
Dr. Okoro, you just made mention of, poor governance being the factors that we are having insecurity in the north. And it looks like, the people down south are experiencing good governance because I think it's a general issues in the country. I mean, we are talking about poor governance. We are having that some people are going through hunger. The youth in the south are also complaining, but we are not seeing the same level of insecurity in the south. So we mainly say it is poor governance or something else is is actually a factor to insecurity in the north. That's number one. Number two, with the level of funding that goes into security and defense at every budget, I think currently the budget for security is 3.25 trillion naira, and then I think the last administration 2023 had 2.7 trillion, which took like 73% of the expenditure. With the amount thrown into defense and security in this country, one will wonder, why do we still have, pockets of insecurity and kidnapping and banditry here and there in the country? I would like you to address that.
Well, on the first question, if you look at the Human Development Index, the South is far ahead of the North. Basic services are available. Even where they are not available, the people in the South have learned to provide for themselves. Private schools are provided, hospitals are provided by private people, and everybody work hard to ensure that they are able to, not with government, they access these services. So the difference is that while in the South, development is ahead. People go to school. A lot more people go to school in the South. A lot more people go to school in the South. That's the first one. You know that we have had problem of education in the North for a long time. That people don't really go to school. People don't see the reason to go to school. So today we have about, this is what statistics says, give us different figures, that we have about 20 million out-of-school children, and a majority of them are from the North. And so the question is, these children that didn't go to school today, when they grow up, what are they going to become? Now they are 10, they are 12, they are 6, they are 2 years old. Now, when these children grow up, they get to 20 years old, they get to 25 years old, they get to 18 years old, what will they do? They have no option but to join the industry that seems to be delivering. So in the South, there have always been that difference. Poverty level in the North is also very high. In some states, you have as much as 95% poverty rate. You have 90% poverty rate. You have 80% poverty rate. What that means in real terms is that out of 10, every 10 people you see, every 10 adults you see, that nine are poor. 9 are poor. So when you have that kind of grinding poverty staring everybody in the face, the human index is very low. So you will also always expect there to be insecurity. You expect there to be crime. In crimes where you have very low crimes, go see. The human development index is very high. There's education. There's access to health. There's access to the good things of life. So people who have this access will not want to go into crime and criminality. Now, if that answers your question, why this difference takes place in the South, people fend for themselves. Look, people who go to school, if government does not provide a job for you, you use your skills, you use your education to find an alternative. So this has always been the difference between what's happening in the North and what's happening in the South. Now, when you talk about the issue of budgeting, of course, since the advent of the Boko Haram insurgency, the budget for security have concomitantly risen very, very sharply and significantly. For the simple reason that if the military says this is the money they require to do their work and you don't give them, then you are saying that the country should burn. So when they make requests, the fundings are provided. But the question is the management of that funding. The question is accountability. The question is who cares? Who asks? You were given this last year. Let's have a detail of how it was spent there. If there's a word like spend, how it was spent. And if you don't provide that detail, there should be sanction. But today we have a situation where nobody asks the questions. The military tells you they bought this, and it's just taking. But globally, there is what we call accountability. When you are giving money, you must account for how that money has been spent. Tragically, last month, somebody raised on the floor of the Senate to say, look, we need to ask the military to come over to account for the funds they have been giving over the years. It's not a crime, it's a public fund, right? This money is public fund. And the question was, let's invite them. Let them come and tell us how they have spent this amount of money over the years. And people rose up in the Senate and said, no, we won't do that. It is an issue of national security. What are national security going to do with that? National security means that when resources are provided, those resources should be properly managed and deployed for the purpose. So you ask yourself a lot of questions. What kind of country are we running where the Senate will say that people who are legitimately giving money, and by the way, under the public financial management system. Anybody who takes a kobo out of the government is supposed to account for it. But here we are told that they shouldn't account. So people they are taking care of themselves the way they want, because there is not going to be consequences. There are not going to be questions from anywhere. So this is why you ask yourself why so much money is being pumped into the sector and we don't have concomitant result. Anywhere in the world you go to, when you are giving money in the security sector, we know. We say security is a secret thing and all that, but there should, when you are talking about public funds, there must be accountability. But here, and this is why I said it is in Nigeria, the failure of governance is the failure of the citizens. Because the citizens will never ask any question. They just take it. If government don't do like that, we could leave them on our government. Where they come out, another person will come. It's a crazy way to live in the country. The citizens own this country. They are sovereign. They are the one that give sovereignty to Nigeria. So they should be able to ask questions, whether from their local government chairman, whether from their councillor, whether from their governor, whether from the president or anybody that represents government. They should be able to ask questions. This money that was given, how is it spent? But in a situation where nobody asks, the government will do whatever they like.
Okay, so let's look at some real-time issues happening in the country as we speak. It looks like Sokoto is embroiled in a fresh bout of insecurity. So there's been abduction of, traditional ruler who was later on killed. And then even on the Zamfara highway, there's a report of about a number of persons being abducted on the highway now to fill 2 coastal buses. So the question always returns, what happened in the time where these travelers were abducted? They had the time to fill 2 coastal buses and drive to whatever location that they have been driven to. And why did we have, the security agencies intercept? So we seem to be having a lot of issues around there. What's really happening in Sokoto that is necessitating the president asking that, the security heads actually deploy there?
No, you see, I told you earlier that when you have, I give you an example. You talked about the military trucks that were seized by the actually armor personnel carriers that were seized by the bandits. Now, again, that's why I said it is the failure of governance. The whole of those environments are bandit environments. They are bandit control communities. So the military comes into those places to operate. They face a lot of danger. They could be ambushed and wasted. All of them could be ambushed and wasted. They are within an area that is controlled by bandits. So they are at risk of anything happening. So this on this particular occasion, we have their vehicle, according to what we have been told, is stuck in the mud. And in an attempt to pull it out, they are not able to get it out, even with some form of support. And then it is getting dark. It will be suicidal for you to stay back there because the bandits are all over the place. They are all over the place. All the youth you are seeing around that are strolling around either bandit themselves or bandit informants. They either bandit or bandit informant, or they have one thing or the other to do with bandits. So it will have been suicidal if that evening, when it is getting dark, and the military do not have the necessary support, air support and all that, they exit from that environment. Otherwise, it will have been suicide. So they had to leave, maybe make a retreat, a strategic retreat, to come back the next day. They say he who fights and run away or survive need to fight another time. So they left that environment. But again, that also speaks to the fact that the question you will ask, so what happened to all the budget? Because in the current security environment, whether in Nigeria or outside, you cannot talk about weather being the reason why you are not able to carry out certain military or security functions. You can't talk about terrain. We have drones. We have weather resistant drones and equipment. So when we don't have that, then we are limited. But what happened in this fight is that this operation took place in a bandit control environment, and you just go in there, operate, and get out. Because if you are stuck or you stay behind a bandit, look, how many soldiers were there? Maybe you have 50 soldiers at maximum. Then you have 300 bandits coming, all of them shooting from different directions. What do you do? 200 bandits coming, you are overwhelmed. So it's just whites that you fight to also to lead. So this is the challenge, that we have an entire environment that is bandit infected. But again, that goes to the same reason why I asked. So If we have the right equipment, we could deal with that kind of situation. Unfortunately, those kind of equipment I understand right now are not available. And until we get them, we might continue to have a situation of like this.
Now, you seem to be very big on, poor governance, which is the result of why we are having the insecurity in the north. And one we want to ask that, is this move by the president the right move, asking the whole military and the whole military facility to move to Sokoto? Is that the right move, or will it be that they should rather address the issue at the roots, empowering the youth, empowering the northerners, rather than just asking the whole northern military facility to move to Sokoto? What will you say about this?
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
You go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Okay, fine. You seem to be freezing. Okay, see. Okay, it's like it's not the right. It shouldn't be the right action to be taken. We have been on this government. This president came in over 15 months ago. The question you should ask yourself: what has he done differently in terms of governance, in terms of improved governance? What has he done? What has he done differently? Today, Nigerians are the human situation in Nigeria is deplorable. People are hungry. People are frustrated. People are just pushed to their tatters all over the country. There have no improvement in governance in terms of how government touches the people. We are not talking about building Lagos Calabar Expressway. That's not what we are talking about, because that has very little impact on the citizen at the moment. So we have a number of issues that government have not addressed, both at the state, at the federal level. But you asked that they should go and it's a short tokenistic measure. If you ask me, it's a tokenistic measure to show that we are doing something. A crisis that Buhari didn't deal with, Goodluck didn't deal with, Tinubu have not dealt with in 15 months. Is it this one that you are asking them to go to those states? What are they going to do differently? Perhaps they will fly some jets, decapitate some camps, destroy some bandits. But what happened to the bandit economy in the north? What happened to the bandit economy? Are you going to dismantle them in these few days that these guys are going to be there? Of course, they are not going to be there permanently. They probably be there for maximum of a month or thereabout, and everybody comes back, and bandits go back. Because like I said, it's an economy. For you to dismantle that economy, you need to provide an alternative. What is the alternative? It's better governance. Ensure that people can afford basic needs: food, water, education, healthcare. Government shows care. So it's not something that is a dash that these guys will just go like James Bond and they just go and then they just do and everybody come back and we are happy forever after. There are fundamental issues that have to be addressed, but this is the way you do it. It's carrot and stick. So why, if government will agree, they put enough resources behind the security operation so that it can last long enough. It can last long enough to be able to decapitate these people, reduce this activity, degrade them as much as possible. By the way, one of the things that give me hope that we can actually do it if we are serious is that we dealt largely with terrorism. Remember, there was a time bombs were being thrown and people were dying in Abuja and all over the country. But eventually, terrorists have been able to be pushed to fringes of the northeast. So you don't have a lot of terrorists coming this way now, even though part of what has happened is that terrorists have mutated into banditry. So some of the banditry you are seeing is a mutation, is a mix of terrorism and banditry. Terrorism actually changed shape, but largely they are reduced. So I believe that if the right measures are taken, that we could deal with this. But the point I'm making is that, yes, this move will achieve result if government is ready to provide resources to these guys, maybe for 6 months. So you sustain an operation for 6 months at that intensity. You can degrade this as much as possible. That with the force of arm, but it does not deal with the fact that that issue will continue to fester if governance is not also improved. So you are dealing with the security component. You should also deal with the governance component. So there should be an emergency in the governance sector.
Okay, so still talking about disbanding the bandit economy that has, gained a lot of traction and strength in the north. We even see them coming on social media platforms now, making videos and releasing saying it means the intel and information about the weight of what's going on in the northwest and the northeast is available for all to see. My question is, with regards to disbanding this economy, let's look at the place of self-help. Now, there are rumors of, citizens, indigenes of Sokoto State, marching into the forest, and they're saying, making chants and saying, they're going to march forward and try to quell this insecurity for themselves. Do you think that this is an approach that is going to quell insecurity? And are we coming into that day where we actually see our brothers and sisters in the north become restless and try to take their own security into their hands?
When people are desperate, when you expect, as citizens of a country, you expect the state to rise up for you if there are crises. You expect the state to protect you. You expect the state to come. If there are issues and you go to report to the police, for instance, or the military, you expect them to come and then deal with those issues. But what happens if nobody comes? If you report consistently, these are bandits, these are their camps, this is where they live, this is where they operate, and nobody responds, and you are left to fend for yourself. The bandits keep coming back every day, levying you to pay this amount of money, even though you cannot access your farms. So now people are left with no option but to try and self-help. But that in itself is suicidal, because I have had to relate with hunters and vigilantes in the far north who are trying to provide this self-help you are talking about, and many times they are mowed down. The bandits are well resourced. They kidnap people and they have made money so they can buy quality arms and ammunition. And then you have hunters and the locals who come with game guns. With at best they have this gun that people carry, this pump action guns. At best, this is what they have. While bandits carry guns of significant caliber. Sometimes they even have rocket-propelled grenades and all that. Recall that these bandits have brought down a fighter jet in Katsina, in Zamfara State. They brought down a fighter jet. You recall last year when special forces, men of the Nigerian special forces, were mowed down because they were called for an operation in Niger State. And on their way, they were ambushed and they were killed. And when the rescue aircraft went there, helicopter went there to retrieve their body, the aircraft was brought down and everybody were killed. So if there are people that can confront the military that way, is it self-help that is going to solve the problem? You don't have the capacity. So it's like, if we sit here, we'll die. If we go out to confront these guys, we'll die. So let us go out and confront the guys. That's why you see people marching into the forest. If bandits come out with their bikes, 300 of them, 200 of them on bike, all of them firing AK-47. Who the hell are you that will be able to stand against them? So like I said, it's a national emergency, security emergency, and it should not just be okay to say everybody who are the head of military security sector should go to Sokoto. We should think it through. We should think it through, think through and say, put people in the room and say, we have this crisis. What is the best way forward?
All right.
It is when that is done that you have a course of action that you cannot deploy men and materials.
All right, Dr. Okoro, before we let you go, because we have limited time, you have made mention of certain issues. First of all, you've made mention of the bandits having sophisticated equipment and, mercenaries of attacking. But my question is, shouldn't the matter of security be an intelligent kind of, information? Now, this information has been put in the public, and you agree with me that certain elements of these bandits or terrorists, they have gotten idea of this. Don't you think it's going to be another kind of the military moving to Sokoto, because the bandits are aware that they are coming to Sokoto? They just particularly move to another part of the country to bring insurgency. Don't you think? What do you think of that?
No. You have an absolutely perfect question. So, because when you put pressure on these bandits now in Sokoto, in Katsina, Niger, and all that, they will move to areas that are not as policed as those areas. I mean, they just go to area with that is less hard for them. So this is the concern I was going to talk about. That the strategy they should adopt, they should know, because of their work. I'm talking about the military now. It will reference those areas they are going to operate so that the bandits do not escape to other areas like Niger State is under bandit control. They are knocking on the doors of Kogi and Benue State. And if they can break through Benue State and Kogi State, they are at your backyard there in Akwa Ibom State. So that is why the strategy that is going to be adopted should be such that the area where operation is taking place is ring-fenced so that nobody leaves. But in the past, that had not been what we have seen. In the past, you put pressure in Zamfara State on the back. And they easily go to Niger State or they go to Kaduna State. And that shouldn't happen. We should have a comprehensive app where pressure is put at various points that will not allow the bandits to escape. And I just pray and believe that they are listening and that they are well-groomed, the military people and the security people, to do what is needful to ensure that bandits do not escape. It's just like the bee. When you put fire on the beehive, they will scatter and they will bite people in different places. So we should be able to control that aspect. So the issue of security intelligence, you might know generally what is supposed to be done by the security agencies, but you don't know the tactics, you don't know the time, you don't know the approach, you don't know the equipment. So it's not a problem if they know that people are coming to Sokoto.
Okay,
right.
So it's our prayer and our hope that the federal government and the security agencies will do what's best for us. Thank you very much, Dr. David Okoro, for coming on the show this morning and shedding light on the security situation of our nation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Well, quite a strong education there. We do hope that the government is listening and they will implement along the lines of this information. But that's the much we can take on Rise and Shine this Monday morning. Security is your responsibility, is my responsibility. I do hope that we stay safe out there. You may?
Definitely. Till we meet again tomorrow on Rise and Shine, do have a beautiful Monday.
All right. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.